All right, get ready for this one because today we're going deep, diving into a business plan that really caught my eye.
Oh,
Yeah. A Vietnamese company, ambitious goal, wants to bring AI and IoT not to just one, but two major energy sectors:
hmm.
oil and gas and renewable energy. That's a power play, don't you think?
That's a really interesting combo. You don't see a company every day that wants to be a bridge between two, sometimes you could say competing industries.
Yeah, and that's kind of what makes it so interesting, right?
Yeah.
This company, they want to be the top dog. They want to be the go-to for AI and IoT solutions, but really specifically focused on making operations in both of these industries smoother, more efficient, and of course, cheaper.
Well, I think for a lot of people listening, that's the key takeaway, is that how do we make things cheaper? How do we make things more efficient? And I think that that's where the value proposition really lies here.
Yeah, for sure. Their mission is all about empowering businesses to take control of their equipment, using software and data solutions that not only monitor and analyze, but can actually predict potential issues before they spiral out of control.
Yeah, so it's not just about looking back and seeing what went wrong. It's about, can we see into the future
Mm.
and prevent those big, massive headaches from ever happening in the first place?
Yeah, it's like a proactive approach to problem solving, and that's always better than being reactive,
Well,
right?
100%.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of how they actually plan to do this. Their main product is software, right? That acts like a superpowered detective for all that sensor data that's coming in from, oil rigs and wind farms and everything in between.
Yeah, it's basically taking, all of that data that is coming off of sensors, and instead of just displaying numbers,
Yeah.
it's using AI to say, hey, is this piece of equipment about to break down?
So it's like a fancy dashboard, but with predictive powers. Okay, so how do they actually plan to make money from this? What's their business model look like?
So they've got a few ways. The first is the kind of classic software as a service,
Right.
SaaS. You pay a monthly fee, an annual fee to access the platform.
Like a Netflix for industrial equipment. I
Exactly.
see it.
But I think they also recognize that, not every oil tycoon, let's say, is ready to jump on the subscription bandwagon, right? So they also offer on-premise customization.
Okay, so like a more tailored approach for those who like to keep things in-house.
Exactly. Especially for those big oil and gas companies who might be a little bit more, shall we say, traditional
Yeah.
about their data. And to round out their revenue streams, they're also providing consulting and integration services. So, not everybody can just kind of take this software and plug it in and have it magically work, right?
Yeah.
They need some hand-holding to
Yeah.
kind of get it up and running. So they're offering all that as a service as well.
Okay, so they've got the tech, they've got the revenue streams. Who are they going after? Who are they hoping is going to be using this stuff?
So they're targeting, I would say, a pretty diverse set of customers. Obviously, you've got the big oil and gas companies,
Yeah, the usual suspects.
the Shells, the Exxons, all the big players in that space.
But, they've been doing things the same way for 100 years. Are they really ready to jump into the world of AI and IoT?
You'd be surprised, the oil and gas industry, they're facing increasing pressure to be more efficient, to be more sustainable. And AI, I think, offers a way to kind of thread that needle, right? So
Hmm.
it's not just about being trendy anymore. It's about survival.
Yeah, it's about staying ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
Okay, so who else are they targeting? Who else is on their radar?
So they're also looking at those companies that specialize in industrial equipment, maintenance, and operation. Think of them as the folks who are already out there keeping things running.
Okay, so they're the ones who would really benefit from a system that can predict and prevent problems before they even arise.
Exactly. Why wait for something to break when you can fix it before it even becomes an issue?
Right.
And then, of course, you've got the renewable energy sector. Wind and solar farms, they rely on equipment monitoring as well. So
Right.
that's a natural fit. And they're even looking at partnering with the providers of sensor and SCADA systems. These are basically kind of the central nervous system of industrial facilities, collecting data from all the different equipment.
So by integrating with those systems, they can tap into a much wider market.
Exactly. It's like hitching a ride on a rocket ship that's already going to the moon.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so they've got their target audience in mind, but how do they actually plan to reach these people? What's their go-to-market strategy?
It's a multi-pronged approach.
Mm-hmm.
And they're recognizing that, what works for a massive oil corporation might not work for a smaller wind farm operator,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Sure.
And a big part of that is building relationships.
Yeah, especially in industries like oil and gas, it's all about who you know and who trusts you, right?
100%.
Mm.
You can't just show up with a slick PowerPoint and expect to win them over.
So it's about building those personal connections,
Yeah.
networking.
And then, of course, attending industry conferences and events. That's a big part of their strategy as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's got to be more than just sending a bunch of LinkedIn requests, right?
Exactly.
To actually land those big contracts.
You got to get out there and press the flesh and, show that you're a thought leader. And then this other part I think is really clever. They're talking about collaborating with those sensor and SCADA system providers.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit before.
It's like a win-win for both sides.
Yeah.
The providers, they get to offer their clients a valuable new service. And this company, they get a foot in the door with some of the biggest players in the industry.
It's like a symbiotic relationship. Okay, but getting the software into the hands of potential clients is just the first step, right? How do they actually prove that it works? How do they convince these companies to take the plunge and sign on the dotted line?
Pilot projects, that's the key.
So give them a little taste test.
Exactly. Let them kick the tires, see how it works in their own environment before they commit to a larger contract.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And of course, there's the marketing side of things.
Yeah, the good old marketing.
Got to get the word out.
Got to build that brand awareness.
Exactly. So they're going to be using content marketing, blog posts, case studies, thought leadership pieces shared on places like LinkedIn to try and position themselves as the experts in this space.
So it's about establishing credibility and providing valuable insights, not just shouting about their product from the rooftops.
Exactly. It's a long game.
Okay, so they've got a pretty well-rounded strategy for reaching their target audience. Now let's talk about the technology itself. How are they actually planning to develop this sophisticated software? What's their roadmap look like?
They've got a 3-stage plan.
Okay, 3 stages. Break it down for me.
So stage 1, they're going to be really focused on perfecting that vibration sensor monitoring software. It's kind of the foundation.
Okay, so nail down the basics first before you start adding all the bells and whistles.
Exactly. And make sure that, the dashboard that they're using to display that data is user-friendly and that the alerts are clear and easy to understand.
Makes sense. What about stage 2? What are they tackling there?
So stage 2 is where things get a little bit more exciting. That's when they start expanding to support more sensor types. Which means they can get a richer picture of what's going on with the equipment. And that's also when they start developing that AI-powered predictive failure analysis.
The heart of the operation.
Exactly. And this is also the stage where those pilot projects, I think, are going to be really crucial, right?
Yeah.
Get that real-world feedback and make sure that their models are accurate.
Yeah, get the kinks worked out before you go big time.
Exactly.
All right, in stage 3, what's the grand finale?
Stage 3, they're building out the full SaaS platform. They're going to be making it available for online subscriptions, integrating AI and machine learning more deeply into their data analysis. And that's when they're really going to start targeting the renewable energy market.
So taking it to the next level.
Exactly.
Yeah, spanning
Not
the
label domination.
world domination.
Cool.
I like
I
it.
like it.
But all of this, all this ambition requires fuel, right?
Fuel, money,
Money.
might have.
Yeah. So what's their financial plan look like? Where are they getting the resources to make all of this happen? Well, initially, they're going to be bootstrapping.
Yeah.
Using their own resources to kind of get things off the ground. But they're also looking at seeking funding from startup support programs or venture capital firms.
Yeah, got to get those investors on board.
Exactly. And I think those pilot projects that we talked about before,
Yeah.
those can be a really good way to attract investors, right?
Right. It's like a proof of concept.
Exactly. They're not just talking about what they're going to do. They're actually showing potential investors, hey, this is how it works. Look at these results.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win.
Okay. But building a company from scratch, it's not cheap, right?
No, it's not.
What are some of the biggest costs that they're anticipating?
Well, software development is a big one. Right? You got to pay for the hosting, the cloud services, all the AI models that they're building. And then there's the marketing and sales side of things.
Yeah, can't forget about that.
Attending those conferences, building a website, all that stuff costs money. And then as they grow, they're going to need to expand their team, which means hiring, talented AI engineers.
Yeah, those guys don't come cheap.
They do not come cheap.
So they're looking at a pretty significant investment up front to get this thing off the ground.
Yeah, I think so. But what stands out to me about their financial plan is that they seem to be taking a pretty balanced approach. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket. They're diversifying their funding sources. They're leveraging partnerships. And they're really, I think, seeking out opportunities to demonstrate the value of their technology.
So it's a long-term play.
Yeah,
They're not just looking for a quick buck. They're trying to build something sustainable.
exactly. And I think that's what makes this business plan so intriguing. They're not just focused on kind of the next quarter's profits. They're really thinking about the long game
Yeah.
and how they can create a company that's going to be around for the long haul.
I like that.
Yeah.
So what stands out to you the most from this business plan so far?
It's really that audacious goal of bridging the gap between traditional energy and renewable energy sources. I think by applying AI and IoT solutions to both of these industries, they're not just optimizing operations.
Mhm.
They're potentially helping to create a more sustainable and efficient energy future for all of us.
That's a pretty powerful thought.
It is.
They're not just about making money, they're about making a difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this business plan so compelling. It's not just about technology.
Yeah.
It's about using technology to address some of the biggest challenges facing our world today.
I'm on board. So far, I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing here.
Yeah?
We've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about the vision, the business model, the target audience, the tech, even the financials. I think we have a pretty good understanding of what this company is all about.
I think so.
But what are your initial thoughts on their chances of success?
It's tough to say. It's a really tough industry.
Mhm.
The energy industry is notoriously complex.
Yeah.
There are a lot of entrenched players and a lot of, resistance to change. So it's not going to be easy.
They're definitely facing an uphill battle.
But I think what I find refreshing about their approach is that they're not just trying to disrupt the industry. They're trying to collaborate.
Yeah, it's a more nuanced approach.
It is. And I think that's what gives me some hope, at least, that they might have a chance to succeed.
So cautious optimism.
Cautious optimism.
Okay.
I like it.
Yep. I am too. I think this deep dive has definitely got me hooked. I'm really eager to learn more and see how this all plays out.
Me too. It's clear that they're not afraid to think big and challenge the status quo, and that's always exciting to see.
All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dig deeper into the technology itself and explore what makes it so unique.
Sounds good. Ready to get under the hood, so to speak.
Yeah.
Take a closer look at the tech behind this whole thing.
Let's do it. I want to understand what makes the software tick. What's the magic ingredient that sets them apart?
At the heart of it all, it's their proprietary AI engine. And it's not just crunching numbers. This thing is constantly learning and evolving. Every piece of data it analyzes, it gets a little bit smarter, a little more sophisticated.
So it's not static. It's actually growing and adapting over time. That's impressive.
Exactly. Think of it, like a superpowered detective sifting through mountains of clues.
Okay, I'm intrigued. I like where this is going.
It takes in tons of information, from sensors, equipment logs, maintenance records, anything you can think of. And it uses all that data to find patterns and spot those anomalies, the things that humans would probably miss.
Okay, so it's like having a 247 watchdog, constantly monitoring everything, looking for those subtle signs of trouble.
Exactly. It never sleeps, never takes a break. And this is where it gets really interesting. This is how they're approaching predictive maintenance.
Okay, we touched on that a bit before, but give me more detail. How does this actually work in practice?
So instead of waiting for something to break down, which, let's be honest, that's how we've been doing things for a long time.
The old if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach.
Yeah, exactly. But their software can actually anticipate failures before they happen. Like, how your car sometimes gives you a little warning, a weird noise,
Yeah.
light starts flickering?
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling all too well.
Yeah, so this software does the same thing, but for industrial equipment.
So it's like a sixth sense for machinery? That could be a game changer in terms of reducing downtime and avoiding those costly emergency repairs.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, it doesn't just say, hey, something might go wrong at some point. Their AI engine can actually predict the time frame, even the location of the failure, with a pretty remarkable degree of accuracy.
So we're talking specific insights, actionable information that companies can use to make informed decisions, not just vague warnings. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's taking the guesswork out of maintenance. But, of course, the accuracy of all this depends on the data, right? You need a lot of it, and it needs to be good quality.
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out, as they say. How do they ensure they're getting a complete and reliable picture of what's going on with all this equipment?
Data acquisition is key. They've built a really robust system for gathering data from a wide variety of sources. And they're using machine learning to constantly refine those models, improve their accuracy based on the incoming data.
So the system is constantly learning and getting smarter.
Exactly. The more data it processes, the better it gets at spotting those subtle patterns and predicting future events. But I know what you're thinking. It can't be easy managing all that data.
Yeah, that's a massive amount of information to process and analyze, especially in industries that aren't exactly known for their cutting-edge infrastructure.
You're telling me. But that's where their expertise in data science comes in. They've developed algorithms that can sift through all the noise and extract those meaningful insights.
Mm. So it's not just about collecting data, it's about making sense of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what separates them from the pack, I think.
Right.
It's not just preventing those catastrophic failures. They're also focused on optimizing performance. Looking at things like energy consumption, operating temperatures, finding ways to squeeze every last bit of efficiency out of the equipment.
So it's like a personal trainer for industrial equipment.
Exactly. Helping companies get the most out of their assets while reducing their environmental impact. But I think the big question is, how do you actually get companies to embrace this new way of thinking? We're talking about industries that are, notoriously resistant to change.
Yeah, they like to stick with what they know. It's worked for them for decades.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think they've been smart about their approach. They're focusing on collaboration, partnering with companies to find solutions that fit their needs,
Yeah.
rather than just, trying to disrupt everything.
So it's a more gentle nudge than a shove. Leading by example, building trust.
Exactly. They've built a team with deep industry expertise, people who understand the nuances of these sectors and can speak the language of their clients. They're not just coming in as tech gurus, they're coming in as problem solvers, people who genuinely want to help these companies succeed.
That makes a huge difference. It's about building relationships, not just selling software.
Yeah, 100%. And those pilot projects we talked about, those are key to demonstrating the value of this technology, showing, not just telling, what it can do.
Seeing is believing. But even with the best technology and the best intentions, there's always a learning curve. How do they plan to support their clients through that process?
They've got a comprehensive onboarding process, training, documentation, plus they offer ongoing technical support, and they've got consulting services too.
Okay, so hand-holding for those who need it.
Exactly. They're not just dropping the software and saying, good luck. They're there every step of the way, guiding their clients through the process and making sure they're getting the most out of the technology.
That's a huge selling point, I think. It's not just about the tech, it's about the partnership and the support.
It is. And I think that's what sets them apart. But technology is always changing, right? So how do they plan to stay ahead of the curve? How do they make sure their software doesn't become obsolete?
Yeah, it's a valid concern. What's their secret weapon for staying innovative?
R&D, baby. They've committed a ton of resources to research and development. They've got a whole team of engineers, data scientists, all those brainy folks, constantly exploring new technologies, refining those algorithms.
So they're not just resting on their laurels, they're actively pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Exactly. And they're not afraid to partner with universities, research institutions, tap into a wider pool of talent.
So it's a collaborative approach to innovation.
It is. They're building a culture that embraces that constant learning, that continuous improvement.
I'm impressed. It sounds like they've really thought this through, from the technology itself to the implementation, the support, the long-term vision. It's more than just a company, it's a mindset.
It is.
Yeah.
But there are always challenges, right? Especially in a complex industry like this.
Oh, for sure. What are some of the biggest hurdles you see them facing?
Well, navigating the regulatory landscape is going to be a big one. The energy industry is heavily regulated, and it varies from country to country.
Yeah, they'll have to be nimble and adaptable to operate in different markets.
Exactly. And then there's the challenge of managing growth. As they expand, they'll need to make sure they maintain that culture, those values that we talked about.
Right. It's easy to lose sight of what makes you special when you start scaling up.
It is. But I think overall, they've got a solid foundation and a really talented team.
Okay, so we've talked about the technology, the team, the vision, even the challenges they're facing. But there's one piece of the puzzle we haven't fully explored yet.
And what's that?
The people. Who are the individuals behind this ambitious venture? What are their stories? What drives them?
The human element. It's often the most important ingredient, especially for a startup. And they've got a really impressive team.
Okay, tell me more. Who are the key players driving this thing forward?
Well, their CEO, he's a
Okay.
visionary leader, deeply understands both the energy sector and the power of technology. He's got a track record of building successful companies, and he's passionate about making a positive impact.
So the right combination of experience, vision, and passion. That's a powerful combination. But what about the tech side? Who's the mastermind behind the software?
The CTO, brilliant software engineer, PhD in artificial intelligence. He's the architect of their AI engine.
So he's the brains of the operation.
You could say that, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got the COO, who's really the glue that holds it all together. She's got the business acumen, the strategic thinking. She keeps things running smoothly and makes sure those financial goals are met.
So they've got a powerhouse trio at the top: vision, tech, and business savvy. That's a recipe for success. What about the rest of the team? Who are the unsung heroes making all this happen?
They've assembled a really talented group of engineers, data scientists, marketing folks, industry experts. Each one brings something unique to the table.
It sounds like a dream team.
It is.
And
And they've created this culture that really values creativity, collaboration, and that constant pursuit of excellence.
so it's a place where people can thrive, where they can push the boundaries and make a real difference.
Exactly. And they've got some ambitious goals for the future. They want to be the global leader in AI and IoT for the energy sector. Imagine their technology being used on oil rigs and wind farms all over the world.
Yeah, that's a big vision, but it feels attainable.
It does, doesn't it?
Ugh.
But it's not going to be easy.
No, of course not.
They're going to face challenges. Keeping up with the regulatory landscape, as we talked about, managing that growth effectively,
Mm-hmm.
making sure they attract and retain top talent.
All valid concerns.
Yeah.
But they seem to have the right mindset and the right people in place to navigate those challenges.
Yeah, I think they're well equipped to handle whatever comes their way.
Well, I have to say, I'm incredibly impressed by what I've learned about this company. They've got the tech, the team, the vision, and the drive to make a real impact. I'm eager to see how their journey unfolds.
Me too. It's clear they're not just building a company, they're building a future.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here: their technology, their team, their vision for the future. But there's one more piece of the puzzle I want to explore:
What's that?
the business model. How do they plan to turn this incredible technology into a profitable and sustainable enterprise?
Yeah, the million-dollar question. How do they make money while also making a difference? Let's break it down and see what we can find.
Okay, let's talk money. We've talked about all the cool tech, the team, the vision for the future. But how does it all actually work as a business? What's their plan for bringing in the cash and making this whole thing sustainable?
Well, I think they've realized that there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach in this industry.
Hmm.
You've got a few different ways they can, work with different clients, different budgets, and I think that flexibility is really smart.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just expect every company to jump on board with the same package.
Right.
Especially in this sector, you've got these massive corporations, you've got smaller players.
Exactly.
So what are their main sort of revenue streams? How are they actually making money?
Well, the first one, and probably their sort of flagship offering, is the classic software as a service, the SaaS model. Clients pay a subscription, monthly, annually,
Yeah.
to access the platform, all its features.
Okay, so like a gym membership for your industrial equipment.
Yeah, there you go. Pay a fee, you get access to all the equipment, all the expertise, keep things running smoothly.
I like it.
But they also realize, of course, that some companies, especially those big oil and gas giants, they're a little bit maybe hesitant to hand over all their data.
Yeah, they're very protective of their information.
They are. So that's why they also offer on-premise deployments.
Okay, so it's like they come in and set it up on your own servers.
Yeah.
You have total control.
You got it. And they'll even customize it, integrate it with your existing systems.
Makes sense. Higher touch, probably a higher cost.
Yeah, it is.
But for some companies, that peace of mind is worth it. But what about companies that need a little more hand-holding? What if they need help interpreting the data, figuring out how to actually use the insights that this platform is giving them?
Well, they thought of that too. They offer consulting, integration services. They've got experts in data analysis, AI model development, the whole nine yards.
So it's really a full-service operation. They can tailor their offerings to meet the specific needs of each client.
Exactly. It's not just about selling software. It's about building those long-term partnerships.
Yeah, and that's smart. Okay, so how do they actually price all this? Is it a flat fee, or is it more kind of tailored to each client?
It's very flexible, very value-driven. The SaaS subscriptions, those are usually based on, how many users you have, what features you need. On-premise deployments, consulting, those are priced per project.
Okay, so it's not one size fits all. They work with you to figure out what makes sense for your budget. But let's zoom out a little bit. This company, they're not just trying to make money, they're trying to make a difference, right? How does all of this tie into their mission of creating a more sustainable energy future?
That's a great question. I think that's what sets them apart from a lot of companies in this space. They're really walking the walk when it comes to sustainability.
Give me some examples. How are they doing that?
Well, by helping companies optimize their equipment, use less energy.
Hmm.
That's a direct contribution to a more sustainable future. And by bridging the gap between oil and gas and renewables, they're helping to accelerate that transition to clean energy.
Yeah, they're not picking sides. They're saying, let's make everything more efficient.
Exactly. A rising tide lifts all boats, as they say.
But it can't be easy to balance, the financial goals with the sustainability mission.
It's a challenge, for sure. But I think they found a way to create a virtuous cycle. The more successful they are as a business, the bigger impact they can have on the world.
And vice versa, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
How do they actually measure their impact? Are they tracking things like emissions reductions, those kinds of metrics?
Absolutely. They're looking at energy savings, emissions reductions, waste reduction, the whole gamut.
Yeah.
And they're very transparent about it. They publish reports on their impact, which I think is important.
Yeah, it's one thing to talk about sustainability. It's another thing to actually show that you're making a difference.
Exactly. And I think that resonates with clients, with investors. People want to support companies that are aligned with their values.
And it sounds like they're doing a good job of walking that talk. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've explored their technology, their team, their vision, their business model. They've got a lot going for them.
They do.
And I have to say, I'm really impressed by what I've learned.
Me too. I think they're a company to watch.
Yeah, they're definitely on my radar now. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive. I want to thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration and discovery. And I hope you'll tune in again next time for another deep dive into the world of innovation and technology.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.